Hey everyone, welcome back to the SwiftUI series. Today we're tackling one of the most secure and modern authentication methods, phone number login with OTP. So why should we use OTP? No passwords, more secure than traditional authentication. Instant verifications, users get one-time passwords, those OTPs, via SMS. Firebase handles everything, no backend setup needed. By the end of this tutorial, you'll know how to set up Firebase phone authentication and Xcode, handle OTP verification securely, fix common Firebase OTP issues. Trust me, you'll need this one. And let's go ahead and dive on in. I do just have an example here. So here we have a phone authentication app that I've built, and we're just going to enter a test phone number, and you can actually set these up in Firebase. I'll show you how to. And for this one, we're going to do +1 for the country code, and then we're going to do 1, 2, 3. I'm going to enter my fake phone number, and we can go ahead and send the OTP. You'll see that we get a little progress bar that pops up. It is going to take us to a CAPTCHA window. I've already completed the CAPTCHA, so it should be good to go. Or maybe it'll make me do it again. No, okay, we're good to go. In this case, I'm using a fake phone number, but on Firebase we can generate those verification codes, and this one's going to be pretty easy for me. And let's go ahead and verify that OTP. And we have successfully logged in, and the users continue with our app. So if this is something you want to create, let's go ahead and dive on in. All right, setup is a big portion of this project. If you already have an app set up, you can use the kind of timestamps below to speed ahead, but we're going to be creating an iOS app. So I already have Firebase example, so I'm just going to call this one number 2. Make sure our interface is SwiftUI and our language is Swift. It's very important that we create this before we create our Firebase project. Alrighty, so we're pretty used to this kind of setup here, but we're actually going to click on our app icon here, go to targets. We're going to go to the signing and capabilities tab, and we should see that under the bundle identifier, we're going to go ahead and copy and paste this for a little bit later. Next, we want to head over to Firebase here. Once you've logged into your Google account, you can press the Go to Console, and I already have my Firebase login, but I'm going to create a new project. We'll call this one OTP testing. Wonderful. We can hit continue. You can choose to add Gemini or even analytics in your project. I'm just gonna not have these because this is just a sample project for me, but if you want to explore those, feel free to do so. All right, our project is ready and good to go, and this will take us to the dashboard. So it wants us to get started by adding Firebase to our app. Let's go ahead and click on the Apple one. It has a little iOS icon here, and this is where we're going to need that bundle ID. We can also include a nickname, so I'm just going to call this OTP testing. And if you have this ready to go for the App Store, you can also include that as well. We're going to go ahead and register this new app. Next, it's going to suggest that we download the plist file. However, we're going to be making some changes later on, so I'm going to be waiting on doing this, and I'll show the other spot that you can add this plist file. We're going to click next, and we're going to go ahead and copy this GitHub link. I'll also put this in the description below. And what we're going to do is we're going to go back to Xcode. We're going to go to File, Add Package Dependencies, and under the search or enter package URL, that's where you can put that GitHub link. If you already have used Firebase before, it'll probably be in your recents. We're going to go ahead and add the package. This might take a few minutes, but the nice thing is here too, if you want to add more things for Firebase, manage it, you can always access the URL again and add other packages. Okay, cool. So we have some different things that we can add, and if you want to kind of expand the product here, it might be easier to read. We're going to be adding the Firebase Auth, as well as the Firebase Core and Firebase messaging. We're going to be needing the messaging in order to kind of, have that communication through the app. Okay, and if you forget anything, you can always come back here and add the package once again, or add those other dependencies. So next it's going to say add the installation code. We're going to be doing a whole lot more than what this is suggesting. And let's go ahead and just go to the last step and continue to the console. So when we're dealing with authentication, well, we can click on the authentication option and go ahead and get started. So one thing I will say is, for whatever reason, adding the Google provider here under the additional providers, it typically tends to fix a lot of things, as well as for some reason it makes your Google plist come with the proper client ID. So make sure you've added that. If you want to get a public facing name for the project, feel free to do so. But first we're going to add our phone verification. So we can enable this. And because they do require additional config steps, you can check out this link on how to add the CAPTCHA. Otherwise, we'll be going through that together. So we can add phone numbers for testing. And like I said, these don't have to necessarily be real phone numbers. We just need to make sure that they're the correct style. And here's where we can add the verification code. When users do eventually sign up to your app, you can handle that through a different way. And you can even enforce that it doesn't have like 555 in it, right? Or only allow certain area codes. So let's go ahead and add a fake phone number. I'm just going to do this like the same way I did last time. Let's do 123555. If you know about those movies, is a fake phone number. And then we'll do 1234 again. Don't go calling this number. We can also choose a custom verification code. So for mine, I'm just going to do 123456. You can kind of make your code whatever you want and make sure that it works later on. We can press add. The test phone number has been added. Great. Oh, why is it disabled? Did I not press this button? Well, make sure it's enabled. Make sure you save it there. Maybe I was going a little too fast for myself. All right, and let's go ahead and then enable that Google provider as well. You'll just want to put in your email for this section here, then scroll down and hit save. Even though we're not going to be using that Google sign-in, this is just a good way to ensure that the proper plist is added. And here's where you can grab the most recent Google services info.plist. So I will say, if you do download my completed project or my template that I've put on my GitHub, make sure that you add your own Google service info.plist. Mine will not have it, and if you try to run it, it will not work. So you'll need to add in your configuration file. Okay, so let's go ahead and download that. We're not quite done with Firebase yet, so make sure you keep this tab open. I'm just going to go ahead and minimize this. And from our downloads folder, I'm going to drag the plist in. Now, if you're like me and you've been working with a lot of different Firebase projects, you'll want to make sure that it's just the info. It can't have the dash and the number, so rename it within your project. You'll also notice on the screen, a lot of this is blurred out. Do not share your APIs or any sensitive information with any other people. This way, you're able to avoid any potential threats. Okay, as I mentioned before, we're going to have to modify our kind of app delegate file to handle push notifications. Something to keep in mind is, as well, as far as I'm aware, you will need an Apple developer account for this to work. So at the top of our file, we're going to do some imports. Always make sure we have SwiftUI ready to go. And we're going to import Firebase. We're also going to import Firebase Auth. And if you really want to be certain, you can also import Firebase Core, and we're also going to then import user notifications. So we can leave our kind of main as is, but we're going to be creating a new class. We're going to call it app delegate. Oh, not app delete. Ooh. Delegate. There we go. And we're going to conform this to be an NS object, as well as a UI application delegate, and a UN user notification center delegate. Use autofill here. It is going to be your best friend. Then we're going to create a function just called application, and we're going to do the underscore application. This is going to be a UI application. After that, we're going to add a comma, and we're going to say did finish loading with options, all kind of camel case mode there. Space launch options. Okay, we're doing camel case, colon, we're going to add an array, UI application dot launch options key, colon, any. We're going to add a question mark here, equals nil. Sorry, that question mark and equals nil goes outside the array. And outside of that bracket, we're going to be returning a Boolean value, and then we're going to add a brace. And this is where we're going to be handling, once we finish launching, our Firebase configuration. So we're going to say Firebase app dot configure, empty brackets here, After that, un user notifications center dot current dot delegate equals self. And then we're going to have our application once again dot register for remote notifications. After that, we're going to return true, as we're dealing with booleans after all. Cool. After this function here, create another function also called application. So function application, and in this one we're going to underscore application colon UI application comma did receive, let's see if we can camel case this one out, did receive remote notification space user info with capital S colon. We're going to create our array once again, any with a capital A, hashable, one word, colon, any. Outside of that array, we are going to add a comma, and we're going to say fetch completion handler space completion handler colon at escaping. I'm gonna add a bracket here, UI, capital UI, sorry, capital B for background, fetch result. I'm just going to use my autofill here, and then we're going to return void. Outside of this bracket, we're then going to add a brace, and here we're going to handle the authentication and the notification. So we'll do if auth for the capital A dot lowercase auth. We're gonna use this a few times in our other kind of view here. Dot can handle, but we don't want that one. We want can handle notification. And for the user info, we're just going to go ahead and reference user info, add another brace, completion handler, and then in the bracket, dot no data. Someone put the meme, no data, with the guy, what movie is that guy from? Where he's kind of like blue and looks like way too close to the camera. Okay, anyways, we have set up our app delegate here, and this is going to allow us to handle notifications. It's going to configure Firebase and make sure that Firebase and this app can talk to one another. All right, and now in our structure here, we're going to go before the variable body. I'm going to say at UI application delegate adapter. So this first option for me, I'm going to say app delegate dot self. Then we're going to, oops, we don't need the brackets there. I want to just close off those brackets. Outside the brackets now, we're going to do a variable delegate. Cool, so now SwiftUI can send OTPs and verify users. Again, it's going to have, this is going to allow that to have that communication. Alrighty, and a really small fix. We're actually not going to do did finish loading with options. We're actually going to change this to did finish launching with options. And if you're like me, you spelled receive wrong. I before E, except after C, but not in the case of science. So that should go ahead and fix it. You also might need to include a space after the underscore, just like we did above. And that should remove those two little yellow caution signs that we had before. So sorry about that. Then hop on into our content view. If you wanted to rename this to login view, feel free to do so if that makes more sense. Under our imports, we're going to import Firebase Auth, and then we should be pretty much good to go. We're then going to create some state variables in order to handle the user's phone number, whether or not the OTP has been sent, the verification ID, as well as the code, and then we'll create the last one to show the next kind of screen. So once the user is successfully logged in, they can access the rest of the app. So let's create a state private variable here, phone number, and we'll have it equal an empty string for now. The next one we'll be creating is to see if the OTP has been sent. So state var is OTP sent. And we're going to have this equal false for now. We'll create another state private variable. I'm creating a few of these here. We'll call this one verification ID, which is going to just be a string, and we're going to use our question mark there. The next state private variable we're using is going to be the OTP code. We're going to have this empty equal. And finally, the last state private variable is going to be, we can do is verified, or we can do show home screen. And we're going to have this equals false for now. We're going to use this, when this condition's finally been made true, to transition users into the app. All right, let's go ahead and get rid of our placeholders here. Also, the simulator is quite big. All right, make sure the placeholders. Let's just add some text to welcome people to our apps and say login with phone and OTP. Yeah, this be a title. Font.title, and maybe we can bold it too. Alrighty, next we're going to be creating a text field, and this is where people can enter their phone number. So the placeholder to be such, we'll do comma, and then the text that people are going to be using, we're going to bind this with our $sign to be the phone number itself. We can also just quickly add a text field style. Let's go with rounded border text field style. And also just for user kind of usability, we're going to change the keyboard type property to be a phone pad. If you don't do phone pad, they'd have to click on the number. It's just not as user friendly. And we can also add some padding because why not? I'm always here for some good user interface design. Next, we're going to be creating an if statement to basically say if the OTP has been sent, we'll then provide them with another text field. So let's go ahead and add that. Where they can enter their OTP. So let's just have it say enter OTP. If you want to put one-time passcode, up to you. But this text is going to bind to the OTP code. Again, you can add some text field style here. I'm just going to change the keyboard type to the phone pad again. I think there is also number pad, but this is just easier, and then this way the keyboards are kind of uniform there. Actually, you know what? Let's see if there is a difference between number pad and phone pad. I think the phone pad just has like the options to do like the plus and asterisk and things like that. So maybe the number pad is better. And we're talking about padding. Let's add one of those. Okay, that's all we need within this if statement here. So after the if statement, we're going to be creating a button. And we're going to be doing it with the action style. So we're going to have our action and our colon, and we're actually going to be using a ternary operator. And we're going to say, if OTP is sent, we're going to use our question mark here, then we need it to verify OTP. Now this is going to be a function we're creating later, and then we're going to use our colon to say send OTP. So this way, with one button, we can, send out the kind of OTP as well as verify it if we need to. We can then add some text here. Don't worry, you're going to get an error because we haven't include those functions yet. We'll be creating them momentarily. And within this text, we're also going to use a ternary operator, and we're going to say is OTP sent, question mark, verify OTP. And we can use our ternary operator, kind of set up once again, and send the OTP. We can kind of, add some style. Maybe we can have this extend, so put a max width to be infinity, right? If you want to add some style, so background color. Let's have this be maybe blue, and then the foreground style white. You can do whatever you want with your UI. I'm just gonna kind of play around with it. And unfortunately, it won't update until we add those functions on in. So let's go ahead and do that. So right before our very last brace here, before the preview, if you ever want to double check, you're going to be still creating your functions within the view, just at the very bottom. So you can double click outside that brace. So the first function we're going to be creating is the send OTP. We're going to use our empty kind of parameters there. We're going to use the capital P phone auth provider dot provider with the kind of braces here. We can do dot verify phone number, and we can use this one here with the phone number. Although I would choose this UI delegate one. I don't think there's one that actually fits exactly for our purposes. Okay, so we're going to do the second one here, and we're actually going to get rid of the completion. And make sure you get rid of that comma. So for the phone number, we're going to be using that binding we created above of just phone number. For the UI delegate, we don't have any, so we're just going to be putting that to be nil. Afterwards, we're going to add a brace, and then this is where we're going to be handling our verification ID, and then we're also going to be handling our error. So we're going to do comma error in. It's always a great idea to properly handle your errors. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We'll create an if-let for our error. We're just going to equal error, add a brace. We'll say print error sending OTP. This way, if we do have errors, we can kind of track it and figure it out. We're going to use our error.localized description. From there, we will return outside of the if-let. We're going to create two selfs with lowercase self. We're going to do self.verification ID, which is just going to update to be that verification ID. And then the self.isOTP sent is going to then equals true. We've sent that out. So once the phone provider has basically communicated with Firebase and it's sent it off, we didn't get any errors, it's going to then update the verification ID and then update our state of the OTP being sent out to be true. And then that'll allow the users to enter into that new text field that appears. All right, that function is all good to go. So let's hop out of it and we're going to create another function. We're going to call it verify OTP, nothing within those parameters again. And here we're going to be creating a guardlet verification ID. This is just going to equal verification ID, else we will return. Alrighty, cool. On the next line, we're going to do a let credential equals. We're going to do the phone auth provider.credential. I use the autofill right there, so take a second to catch up if you need to. I kind of just hit tab because yeah, that's what I want. I think with Apple Intelligence, again, it's really great when you know what you're doing, but when you're learning, it can kind of, go a little fast. Alrighty, so what we're going to do within this bracket here is we're going to say with the verification ID and then the verification code. Well, these are some things that we've already created or have referenced before. So the verification ID, it's just that, the verification ID, and the verification code, well, that's the OTP code. You'll need to close off that bracket. And down here, we're going to reference auth with a capital A, and then .auth with a lowercase a and empty parameters. Next, we're going to do .sign in with, and that is going to be our credential that we've created. Outside of here, we're going to add a brace, auth result, comma error in. Oh, I don't want invalidatable content. I just want it in. And to go to the next line. And here we're going to do another if-let. If you want to save some time, actually, let's go ahead and copy our if-let error from before. And then outside of that, we can just say print. User has signed in successfully. Hooray. So if we want to go to another screen, well, we're going to have to implement that. And we're also going to have to create that other screen. You could use this to kind of boot to that whole, home screen or something like that within your app. So let's go ahead and do it. So before we do that, let's also add a little bit of, polish to our app. And we're going to create a new variable. We're going to call this one is loading. We're going to set this one to be false. This way the users can also kind of see while it's doing some communication with Firebase, they can kind of see that their app is loading. So what we're going to do is under our button here, make sure we're underneath it, we're going to do an if is loading. Then we're going to then show a progress view. Now this isn't something that you have to create. It's something that already exists within the application itself. If you wanted to update your progress view style and you wanted to do automatic or circular, I'm just gonna do the circular one here because it's that little spinning wheel. You can even change like the color and things like that of this progress view if you'd like. And in our send OTP, let's also say is loading equals true. And then let's go ahead and before the self-verification, we'll set the is loading to equals false. And we can do the same thing in our verify. Is loading equals true. And in the authentication, let's go ahead and set the is loading to then equals false. So when it is loading, we'll kind of have that little spinner for the users to see. Cool. And then at the end of our VStack here, so right underneath this padding, let's go ahead and do a dot full screen cover. And we're going to do the is presented here. We don't necessarily need the content, but for the binding, we're going to be referencing our show home screen. Add a brace after that. We're going to go to our home screen. Let's add a capital S here. Home screen view. Now we will get an error because it's not created. Before we create it, we're also going to, once we've verified with the users, we're going to set that show dashboard to then be true so we can boot to it. So once the user's been verified, right under our print statement, we'll do self.show home screen equals true. This way the user's logged in, they've been verified, they're going to boot to the home screen. Let's go ahead and create that home screen. So we'll create a new file from template. We're going to go to SwiftUI view. Let's call it home screen view. We don't really need to do a whole lot here. Maybe we'll just create some text that says welcome to the app. Make the title to be large, right? Not tint, we want font. Sometimes when I'm thinking about title, I just get ahead of myself. So bold it, and maybe do a multi-line text alignment here. Center. So once the user's logged in, take them through the rest of your app. For our purposes today, we're just going to be making sure that we've booted to a separate screen once they have been verified. So the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure that we're able to communicate back and forth through the application. Okay, our button also looks a little bit cursed, so I'm going to add some padding right before the kind of background here. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we do have a little bit of housekeeping to take care of. The first thing we need to do is we need to enable those notifications within our application. So let's go ahead and click on our app once again. Under the signing in capabilities tab, we're going to be adding a couple notification kind of handlers. So the first thing we're going to be enabling is push notifications. Cool, and if you want to enter the push notifications console, you can go there. We shouldn't need to look at that just quite yet. And we're also going to be adding another capability, which is the background modes. So this is something where it's like, hey, this app needs to be able to continue running in the background. We're going to go ahead and add that to our application. And this is how we're going to add the remote notifications. So for me, it is the fourth from the bottom. Next, we're going to have to go to the Apple developer website. So let's go ahead and go to apple.developer. I believe I'm already signed in, so if you haven't, make sure to do so. Go ahead and click on account, and you're going to want to go down to the keys section. So I already have a key added, but for you, you'll probably need to register a new key, and we're going to need to enable the Apple Push Notification Service, or the APNs, and we're going to need a key name, so I'm just going to call this one OTP Firebase example key. Once you're good to go, you can go ahead and hit continue and finally register. You're going to want to download this key. Keep in mind you can only download it once, so either make a backup or keep it in a secure location. Back on our console here, we're going to press on the gear wheel and go to project settings. You can then navigate to the cloud messaging. Scrolling down, you'll see the Apple apps here, OTP testing, or whatever you may have called it, and you're going to see the APNs authentication key. We're going to want to press upload, and you can actually just drag and drop the authentication key within here, and you're going to want to enter the key ID. So we can go back to this web page and we can copy the key ID. And for the team ID, this is your developer team number. So if you go to developer account, under the membership details is where you'll find the team ID. I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste mine in. Again, a lot of this information is blurred, I'm not going to be sharing this, with everybody. So we're going to go ahead and upload that once it's been completed. So now Firebase can send OTP notifications. Alrighty, something you may notice is you also should be running this on a real app. I've had a lot of issues with Firebase, even in general, when using the kind of simulator that we were kind of used to. So I would really suggest running this on a real iPhone or a real iPad. So we do have some things in our console, and if we do get an error, we can handle them. But here's our phone kind of on the QuickTime here, and I'm just going to enter my fake phone number here. So that was, I think, this one. We're going to send the OTP, and nothing happens, and we do get an error. Okay, not to sweat. We can see in our kind of console here that we need to update our info.plist. Errors are sometimes a good thing. Don't freak out when you get an error and give up. So we're gonna head on over to our info.plist, and I'm actually gonna right click on it. If this isn't appearing for you real quick, hop on over, go to info, and I typically hit the plus on the URL types and then don't put anything in if your info.plist hasn't shown. So I'm actually going to right click on the info because I think it's a little bit easier to do it this way. And I'm going to open as the source code as opposed to the property list. All right, and inside our info.plist, we already have a key that's been added. If this one wasn't added for you, don't worry, that's not important. Essentially, we need to make sure that we're dealing with the Firebase app delegate proxy and making sure that has been enabled or disabled. I'm going to go ahead and enable mine. We might still get a message in the console, but at least it still should work. So to add another key, we're going to copy like the other ones I've done before. We're going to kind of use these angled brackets. We're going to declare a key. We're going to say Firebase app delegate proxy enabled. Okay, and then we're going to close off that key. And then we're going to set this to be true. Then we're going to use a kind of slash here and kind of close that off. Alrighty, we're going to add another key here, and this is going to be a CF URL types, so multiple. We're going to close off that key. This is a bit of a long one. We're then going to add an array. We're going to also open up a DICT. We're going to open up a key, and this is going to be a CF bundle type role. We're going to then close off that key. We're going to add a string, and with this we're going to call it editor. We'll then close off the string. We're then going to open up another key, CF bundle URL schemes, close off that key, add an array, and in here you're actually going to add a string. And this is actually going to be your app ID in your project and the Firebase kind of console here. If you go to the cogwheel project settings, and if you scroll down to your apps, you'll see that there's an encoded app ID. Mine is blurred out on my end. This is not something that you should be sharing. Back in Xcode, we're going to paste that string. So again, blurred out, but it is that app ID from the Firebase console. We'll then close off the string here. And then we're going to close off the array, close off the dictionary, and then finally close off that initial array we had made. Oh, I forgot a G on the string. Okay, let's go ahead and build our app. So I'm going to be using the my iPhone for this one. Alrighty, once our app has loaded, let's go ahead and add the +1. As when we are entering the phone number, it does need to conform to the proper area code. If you want to, in your content view itself, and maybe do a guardlet to make sure that the format's correct, feel free to do so. So I believe we were 12355 1234. Let's go ahead and send that OTP, and you can see that our progress view is kind of thinking right now, and this should then take us to the CAPTCHA. I don't know if it'll make me do a CAPTCHA. Oh, okay, it is. Sometimes when I've been doing the testing, because I've been doing it so recently, it didn't make me have to do the CAPTCHA. Okay, and then our OTP password, I believe we had set this to 123456. In the case of a real app, someone would be getting that SMS sent to their phone. You can even do like the autofill feature that you may have seen from text messages, which is pretty cool. But yes, welcome to the app. We've successfully used the phone number to authenticate our application. So that is how you can have users sign in. They just register with a phone number. We can even see under the users, we have that fake phone number we've added, the date it was created, when it was signed in, the UUID, things like that. There's also different templates that you can use. So for the SMS verification, you can actually change what text message that user would receive. I'm just using a fake one. For the usage, we can even track how many users are kind of signing in here. As well as for the settings, for the SMS region policy, you can actually allow or deny users from certain regions from accessing your apps. If you're getting spammed from a certain region, or your app is only available for people in North America, maybe only allow, Canada, the United States, and Mexico or something, right? You can customize all of that within your dashboard. And you have all the normal tools of Firebase at your disposal, which is pretty cool. If you have users sign up through your app, you can then also set it up to generate a random code every single time, which is pretty cool. Something to also keep in mind as we were kind of going through Xcode is when we were verifying the OTP, you might want to just make sure that the phone number that they're submitting is valid. So the way I would do this is with a guard let statement that would check to make sure that the phone number is valid, or even to check if it is empty, right? Pretty standard stuff there. So a bit of a long one today, but now you've learned Firebase OTP authentication. This is how you can use it in real world apps. Use it for secure login and sign up, enhance security with multi-factor authentication called MFA. You can also store user data in Firestore for a full authentication system. Whenever you're using Google Firebase, you kind of have that entire tool at your disposal. So let me know in the comments what you'll build with Firebase OTP. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more SwiftUI content. All right, future Noah here. If you are downloading this project off of GitHub, I have included a README file that kind of goes through some of the steps on how you can fix this project. Because you should not share things like your app ID, I have removed them from the Info.plist, and I've also removed my Google Services plist. So you'll need to add your own in once you've created your project on Firebase, and you'll also need to update the normal Info.plist and where this app one is with your correct ID. Once you've done that, your app should run on your phone, no problem. And that's it for today. Remember, dream big, code bigger, and we'll see you in the next one.